Good to go. I'd like to call to order the November 9th meeting of the Clive City Council. Would the clerk please call roll?
Mayor Edwards,
Here.
Council members Klein,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Judkins, Weaver,
Here.
Michelinani.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. If you would all rise and join us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have approval of the agenda. I'm not aware of any changes.
Approval.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the agenda. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay. Our agenda is approved. Next up, we have a proclamation that concerning gun safety. Many of the cities in Polk County are also adopting this. But let me just read our proclamation this evening. Talk it up, lock it up. Gun safety saves lives. Whereas cities across Polk County are recognizing the health department's gun safety initiative, Clive is participating in the campaign, Talk it up, lock it up, guns save lives. Whereas gun injuries are now one of the leading causes of death for children and young adults in Polk County, whereas 1 in 3 homes has a gun in the house, and whereas 45% of gun-related deaths occurred at home in Polk County, and 66% of the suicides in Polk County were attributed to gun injuries. Whereas our youth are suffering from anxiety and depression more than ever before, putting them at a higher risk for suicide. Whereas we know talking to friends and family members about storing guns locked and unloaded at home and in vehicles helps prevent gun-related injuries and deaths. Whereas free gun locks are available for pickup at Polk County Health Department and the Clive Police Department and other police departments throughout the area, as well as public libraries and other locations. Therefore, on behalf of the city of Clive, I recognize the importance of talking about gun safety, encourage all residents to talk about the importance of safe gun storage. And with that, as Councilmember Klein was indicating, we have actually some gun locks here. And Captain, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the gun locks and how they can be used.
So we did join with Polk County. We're a distribution site for these gun locks. We have a big supply of them at the PD. So anybody wants 1 or 2 or several, they can certainly stop by and we will give those out for free. Important to note, these don't necessarily prevent gun thefts. They're developed to make a firearm inoperable. If they're used properly, you can't insert a magazine into the handgun or you can't chamber a round. So it effectively makes the gun inoperable. They can, like I say, they do help prevent injuries at home. Kids grab guns. People use them in times of crisis to harm themselves. That's what they're there for. They're there as a preventative measure. So like I say, we do have a bunch of them. People are free to stop by and grab as many as they want.
Thank you, Captain. Appreciate it. Any other comments here? All right, we'll move into citizens presentation. This is the opportunity for anyone to approach the council on an item that is not on the agenda. And while Pete checks to see if there's anyone online, is there anyone in the chamber this evening wishing to address this on an item not on the agenda?
For those participating online, you can get our attention in the chamber by using the raise hand emoji. The bottom of your Zoom video screen, there's the reactions button you can touch, and then you can choose raise hand. Your Honor, I do not see hands going up.
Well, thank you. And just as a reminder, we follow character counts during all of our proceedings this evening. Next, we have our consent items.
Approval.
Second.
Motion is second on our consent items. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that is approved by a vote of 4-0. Next, we have a presentation, and we'll start with our food insecurity. Matt.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tonight, we have an update for the council on food insecurity in Clive. We have a number of organizations here to provide a little presentation on what role that they play in that for the city of Clive. I know the mayor had requested to have a brief update here before the end of the calendar year on that. And so with us tonight, we'll start off with Matt Unger from DMARC to talk a little bit about kind of the regional scale and how they have a role here in Clive. And then we have folks from Clive Community Services and Salvation Army to talk a little bit about the food pantries here in Clive specifically. So Matt, come on up. Be all queued up.
Well, thank you everyone for having us here tonight. I'm Matt Unger. I'm the CEO at DMARC. We have a 70-year plus history across Greater Des Moines of really working together to meet human needs. The thing that's really unique about our organization is it's built on a foundation of interfaith cooperation, where we have 200 interfaith partners from 5 to 7 different world faiths at any given time, which in spite of the many things that they believe differently have come together around meeting our mission of working together to meet basic human needs across Greater Des Moines. A couple quick legacy pieces. DMARC was the driving force behind the Homes of Oak Ridge project in Des Moines, which is probably one of our state's best representations of affordable housing with wraparound services, if not across the nation. Has really developed into a really great organization, and we're proud of being the driving force behind that. Also, we're behind Hospice of Central Iowa, which was absorbed by Every Step, which is now providing statewide cradle to grave services, doing incredible work as an organization too. We still have some interfaith programming we do. It's mostly based around bringing people together around understanding different faiths and really showing some of the diversity of the faiths that we have across our community. But since 1976, the largest way we carry out our work is through our food pantry network. So on the map in front of you, you can see the locations of all of our permanently placed partner pantries. How's that for alliteration? They are across the metro and every suburb. You'll hear from 2 of those partners tonight that are located in Clive. We also have a mobile food pantry program that is in an evolutionary state right now, moving to its new sort of iteration. But that has an aim of meeting people who aren't close to pantries or don't have grocery stores nearby, might be located in a food desert, trying to meet folks where they're at. Along those same lines, since the pandemic, we've started a direct home delivery where you can call today and have home delivery service tomorrow. That has really taken off for those folks who can't get to a location outside of their home. This is a representation of our partners that make up our food pantry network. It is 14 food pantries. There's a couple that have multiple locations, including the Salvation Army. What we really try to make sure that we're having good regional coverage, and there's a few pillars that we've built this network upon. The first is providing a dignified experience that's as close to grocery shopping as we can make it. The way we do that is both in how we treat pantry visitors that are coming to these locations, but in trying to make sure that across all these pantries, the same items are available. Most of our partners work with the food bank and they get as many items as they can from the food bank. But what's unique about our setup is we come in and then make sure the things that the pantries cannot get from the food bank that we want to always have on hand is available to them. So we largely do that through purchasing, and we make sure that we have available inventory for our network of 14 pantries. I liken it to consider us a chain of grocery stores. We're getting some of our food from one supplier and other food from other suppliers to make sure that all of the aisles of our grocery stores are filled, because we believe part of that dignified experience, you don't go to your grocery store and suddenly the peanut butter aisle is empty or there's no cereal today at the grocery store. So we want to make sure that our pantry visitors have that same experience. We also have a commitment to providing healthier foods. We really put a premium on providing fresh produce, lean proteins when we can get it, dairy and egg products, and a commitment to data. We have an intake process that requires a shared intake system across all of our pantries, which really allows us to have a lot of the data that'll be shared with you tonight. it's not only about understanding from a business perspective what is happening across our network, but it's also making sure we can provide a good experience for those who are coming, and we can try to get at root causes, try to understand the circumstances that people are facing that led them to food insecurity. Because ultimately, we don't solve food insecurity by providing people food. It's through changing the reasons that led them to that in the first place. So a little bit about our intake system here. It's not a requirement to receive food at any of our pantries, but we do ask people to share the information. Most people are happy to do it. I liken this to the first time you go to a Costco or a Sam's Club, you have to sign up for the club, you go through some questions, and then when you come back, it's a quick check-in. We do make sure that the circumstances haven't changed. So a couple of the figures, we just recently did our Portrait of a Pantry Visitor Report, which we do annually, that looks at the data and kind of shows who are the sorts of folks that we're seeing across our network. This past fiscal year, and we are a July 1 to June 30 fiscal year, we provided assistance to almost 60,000 unique individuals. That's not 60,000 visits. Maybe they came one time, maybe they came 2 times, maybe they came 12 times. That's unique individuals. The really stark numbers for us this year were around the number of new individuals that made their first time visit to one of our pantries. And we have that data going back to 2012. And that was 1 in 3 of the pantry visitors were coming for the very first time. We look at race and ethnicity breakdowns. A lot of it is to try and find where are some of the disparities and what opportunities do those present for us to be able to better assist those who are coming and are in need of our pantry network. When we look at sort of average number of visits, people are coming just less than 4 times per year. Half of those 60,000 only came once or twice. We have almost on a super consistent basis, at least a third of who is getting assistance from our network are children under 18. The rest of it varies a little bit. It can flux a little bit, but essentially it's another 10 to 15% are seniors, about 15 to 20% at any given time are unemployed, and then the rest are either working or on disability. We have a 15-year low of people who are participating in SNAP. It's something I like to bring up a lot because it's a benefit that is available and people aren't taking advantage of. It's money in their pocket that goes and is spent at our stores. It's money that we don't have to spend largely out of state on food that we're bringing in our pantry network. So the extent to which we can help make that a strong program, I think is a responsibility all of us share. And then just another figure to show the number is growing a little bit of those that are under 200% of the federal poverty level. The gap is growing between what people are making and what it costs to live. And so we're starting to see some of that bottom part of the middle coming into some of our pantry environment as well. Looking specifically at Clive, we have the 2 pantries, and I'm going to let our partners speak more specifically about what they're seeing. But overall, across our entire network, it was just over 1,300 residents of Clive received assistance, just under 8% of your total city population. You have the most interesting breakdown of diversity of food pantry visitors. When we look at these pie charts, your pie chart for Clive is the one that actually looks like a cut up pie. It doesn't match the general population, but I think it's really interesting the number of different cultures and folks that we have coming to Clive pantries. And I think that presents with it a lot of opportunities for conversation of how can we help these folks? What can we do to help give them a leg up to being self-sustainable? And with that, I would turn over to my colleagues. Thank you for your time tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Horrock from Clive Community Services. I'd like to introduce Annabelle White, soon to be Dank. She'll be getting married this year. Yes. She's our new executive director, and we're very happy to have her. Let's see what we've got here. So in your packet, you should have received this Excel spreadsheet of all the history of clients served. We've seen a 40% increase in visits since January of 2023. Let's see what's next. You also received going off of the food for a minute, our clinic report about what we're seeing there. That was in your board packet. We'll talk a little bit about educational programs at Clive Community Services and our coat giveaway. But on the food side, the things we're seeing a lot of success stories from when we first started. We started to help a lot of the Burmese refugees that were coming. We're not seeing so much of them anymore. They are a success story. They have assimilated. They have moved up in the workforce. They've bought their own houses. A lot of them have moved out of Clive, unfortunately, because there's more housing stock in Urbandale. But really a success story for them. We're seeing fewer of them. We're seeing more Hispanic folks. And of course, we're seeing our normal amount of Caucasian people and elderly people. So those people are always there. I'll ask Annabelle to talk a little bit about things that we are purchasing. We did not sign with the food bank. And so we are purchasing a lot of stuff. Annabelle, can you tell them about what we're purchasing?
Yeah, I do weekly pickups from Aldi for milk and eggs. We're getting probably about 70 half gallons of milk each week, and then also like 70 dozen eggs that we are giving out to the community. And then I also pick up laundry detergent weekly, and I pick up about 60 laundry detergents each week.
We have, she will be soon adding shelf-stable vegetables. We're going to look at adding with our purchasing things like potatoes, onions, carrots, things that are not going to rot quickly, spoil quickly. And we're also starting a rotation of some special items like butter. That's a treat to get. Vegetable oil. A lot of our clients like to do stir fries and stuff like that. So also flour. So we're just going to start a monthly rotation of that. And that's all with our budget. To reiterate what Matt said, most people are working. Yeah, most people are employed that come to see us. They just need a little extra help. Okay, so moving on here, so our English classes, we're running English classes at the Harbach Center, and that's well attended. And I feel like they're going to be getting a few more because I've talked to some folks about that. We've got the 6 consistent students and we've got the 3 volunteers. We just made a big purchase, just under $1,000 in educational materials. We had our coat giveaway event there. That was at the Harbach Center. We really appreciate that space. And I can tell you that when we were in that space, like there was a Tai Chi group going on. There's lots of youth after school. The library's being used. We're really, that's a benefit, I think, to the neighborhood. And then on Monday night, we started giving away coats again, just out of our own facility once we got organized. And she did what, 50 coats?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Okay, that's all for us. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question on the
Yes.
English classes?
Yeah.
There's a small building across the street from you, Caddy Corner by Come and Go.
Yeah.
Are you working in conjunction with them at all, or?
So I've met them, and it's a salon. You go in there and she's got like 2 chairs and 2 different small, have you been in there? 2 different small rooms. And I forget what her name is now. And I feel like she rents out one of the chairs or something. And I went in and met with her and I talked to her about, what she does and why is she a community center kind of thing. And she said, just because people come in and she helps them translate things or, whatever. So then I invited her to come over and see our place. And she came for a tour and I made sure that she knows what services we have. And that's really, I think, as far as her community center thing goes, is she helps people translate stuff. She was a nice gal. Was she from Puerto Rico?
I don't remember.
Yeah, she's a nice gal. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I actually have a couple questions for staff.
Yeah.
If I could.
Yes, please.
So sorry for this.
Sorry.
I wasn't sure at the right time, but since you jumped in. So you mentioned a 40% increase of services since January. What is that 40% increase compared to? What's the baseline that's an increase?
Well, Annabelle figured that out, so I'll let her talk on that.
Yeah, so I basically took the January numbers from the beginning of the year for our DMARC pantry and our anytime room and just did the math of how much they
But
have
relative to
increased.
what? Like, is it over a 5-year average or is it
Oh.
from the previous year?
Oh, it's just from January this year. So it's just
So from
indirect.
January to now, we've seen a
Yes,
40. Okay, so
yes.
do we have any sense how that, what that's like kind of historically over the last 5 years? Or I'm just trying to understand what's the demand for you guys relative to hit the, normal, I get normal, whatever
So
that means.
did you get this in your packet?
I did.
Yeah.
I maybe didn't look at it as close.
Well, no, that's fine, because it goes back, it's like pretty detailed. Like if you were to just take January, for instance, in 2017, we served DMARC 85 in our DMARC. The next year it was 99, the next year it was 74. Of course, we're getting into maybe, no, that wasn't pandemic yet. Then it went up to 138, then down to 88, 51 in 22, and then 131 in 23. So, the numbers keep going up. If you look at the year-end numbers, they go up. They just keep going up. Yeah. And, one thing that I can say is when during the pandemic, people got those extra benefits, and when you can grocery shop for yourself, you are going to grocery shop for yourself because you don't want to have to go to a food pantry and you don't want to be limited to, maybe these products or this brand of bean or whatever it is. But when those benefits go away, they're coming back to the food pantry. So I think that's why you've seen some of the spike. And Matt can probably talk a little bit about, do you agree with?
Yeah, and it's just been on a consistent upswing since April a year ago when the SNAP benefit change happened and we ended the pandemic era SNAP benefits. And the last 3 months have been the 3 busiest months that we've ever seen as a network.
Oh, I must have been confused because I thought your data showed that it was going down. Usage was down
No,
on your
the-
slide.
during the pandemic, that is the only time we've ever had a decrease.
And Councilmember Weaver, to answer your question too, I did the math real quick. From 2017, they had about 1,000 households served. And then already in 2023, with 2 months to go, it's been 1,500 households.
I'm sure a lot of it's driven by inflation, right? And
Mm-hmm.
getting that under control. So your new facility, the expansion's amazing, right? It looks-
Yeah,
looks
yeah. If
great.
anybody hasn't seen it yet, please come visit.
Yeah, it's fantastic and it looks great. I guess my question for you is, what's your long-term plans? Or are you wanting to stay there long-term? You mentioned the Harbach Center. Would you have interest in being at the Harbach Center instead at some point down the line? What is your long-term vision for that?
I would say the board would be open and flexible depending on what the city came up with. We'd be willing to listen because we do spend it's $3,375 a month, I think, in rent.
Right.
Yeah, I think we would be open and we would listen. I have some concerns about that space. There's not a lot of parking. Think about getting big trucks in there. I've got some concerns, but we'd listen.
Could work through it. Okay.
Yeah.
Eric?
Matt, I've got a question for you. DMARC and the Food Bank of Iowa have had a very contentious relationship this year with a lot of negative publicity in the press, a lot of questions regarding the ability to communicate within the two organizations. What's the current status of the relationship and how do you plan on moving forward to successfully cooperate to deal with these issues?
Yeah, we've been meeting on a regular basis. Michelle and I have a monthly meeting. We also have facilitated meetings that we've been having as a group. I think one way I kind of describe it is it's kind of like rebuilding a relationship with an ex. It takes some work and we're putting that work in and trying to work together. I think the roles that we play are very different. I think there's kind of a layers to how the emergency food system works. And where they're the top layer, I think we're in a second layer, particularly with what we've done as a network. If you're an individual food pantry, your first stop is always to try to partner with your food bank. It's the smartest, best, most efficient source of food that you can get. But as a standalone, to make up the difference, you have to either have drives going constantly, try to raise money to be able to provide those extra items, or just not have them. And what most pantries do is just not have them. So where we come in is we're working as a group of 14 to make sure through economies of scale, that we can have those items available at all times. So where we're operating as a network of food pantries, I think sometimes people don't understand the difference between what we're doing and what the food bank does. And some people don't honestly understand the difference between a food bank and a food pantry. So it's a lot of just education, both across the community and then back and forth between our two organizations to understand our roles and how we can best support each other. And I feel like we're headed down that track.
So you feel like you're getting back on track, the relationship is rebuilding, and you're able to utilize it to make it more efficient for both organizations then?
Yeah, I think we're not all the way back. I think we had a better situation before this than we do now, but we're working together in the ways that we can. There's no perfect relationships where this work comes together, but I think we're both trying, and I think that's what matters.
Thank
you.
Thanks for all you do, Stephanie and Annabelle.
Yeah, they'll be back. Good evening, everyone. My name is Major Jolene Hull, and I'm the Associate Capital Area Commander for the Salvation Army here in Central Iowa. And this is Cody Devereaux, sorry, don't say your last name too often. He is the Social Service Coordinator for the Salvation Army here in Central Iowa. So the first slide is just an overall what we do. The Salvation Army's take on social services is to serve people in a holistic way. And food is obviously one of those primary ways that we serve people, but it also is about making sure there's a safe place for them to live, as well as that just the idea of being safe. As you can see, we spend a lot of time with our food pantry, working with DMARC and Food Bank, and even Clive community. We're in constant communication. You'll see our mobile canteen out 3 times a week. We have a breakfast program where we feed the homeless, as well as every month we have some limited funds for rent and utility assistance for those who are needing support there. We do have 3 locations here in the Des Moines area. The command, which is housed in Clive, Temple, which is in the middle of the city, and then the Citadel is on the east side. We threw the Pathway of Hope program in there just because this is where we keep coming back to that idea of the holistic helping care and support to individuals and families, with the idea that the long-term sustainability and financial independence is what we all strive for, even for ourselves. So we want to give that normalcy to the community we live in. And then finally on this slide, our mobile social service unit is on the go. And thanks for the idea of our partners. We do serve Polk and Warren and Dallas counties with that mobile unit. We're going to switch to the next slide for more details, and Cody's going to speak into these.
So I will talk about our food pantry numbers, and our food pantry is fairly new. So we opened it up in April of 2023. And as you can see by the slides, from April to October, we've nearly doubled the amount of individuals that we're serving. The word is starting to get out that we're there. We're starting to get a lot more people in to provide that service. The main county of residence for our pantry visitors is Polk County. At 539, we've had people, 2 individuals actually come in from outside of Warren County as well. And an interesting stat, which I got from DMARC as well, because they run all of our reports, is that the average distance traveled to our pantry is around 4.18 miles. The network average is around 3 miles. So that's an interesting stat there.
When you do your numbers on the individual services with repeat,
Yes.
do you ever have those as unique users on a monthly basis? So what would that look like on April, May, June? You know, in average, what would that look like as a unique user? If I'm understanding these numbers right.
I could pull those numbers for you. I don't have them offhand right now. With the new agreement between Food Bank and DMARC, we're required to do those repeat services. So that's the numbers I ran for this, but I can get that.
This probably is for offline, but you're required to do repeat numbers by
Repeat.
an agreement with
So
food pantry or somebody, but I don't understand the significance of repeat versus unique, because to me, unique matters, not repeat, right? I mean, they both matter, but unique numbers matter to me more. It's kind of a, maybe a little area, it's kind of like dart and
If I may.
Yes, please.
So the repeats, they've come to more than one DMARC network pantry. Part of the agreement with the food bank was they would have to be allowed to come to each of those pantries once, not just one visit across the network.
so these are unique users for April. They've only come once. 214 people have come once to your, to Salvation Army's facility.
yes.
They're not repeat, so it isn't 50 people coming 4 times.
Right.
That matters. Got it.
My
Thank you.
apologies.
Nope, that's good.
And then just an increase in our overall services. So as our pantry visitors rise and rise, it's causing a rise in our other services as well, as far as rent, utility, clothing vouchers, furniture vouchers, even case management, because we're having more people coming through the door. On average, we receive around 200 to 300 calls a month for assistance. Everybody is provided with resources. You know, if we can't assist, we try to assist everybody or point them in the right direction for services. And then collaboration and partnerships. So through partnerships with DMARC and Food Bank, we've been able to provide much needed food insecurity support for Polk County and Clive specifically as well. We will foresee the need for increased partnerships and a stronger sense of community if we're going to fully address the community needs in the future. So, thank you. And then our contact information as well, if you have any other questions.
Anything else?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You do great work.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, just to let the council know too, is we've invited the Food Bank of Iowa too to do a similar update. We have them scheduled for a meeting in February.
Nothing further on that. We'll move to community development. Amanda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight we have before you Community Development's Process Improvement. Matthew, would you mind doing screen share for me? So ours this year focuses on access to easement documents. So what you're seeing here on the screen is the city's internal mapping software. It's not our software, it's web-based. This did require me to sign in with a staff login. So this is behind security. And I won't be able to quite demonstrate the full capability of it since I believe this machine is on a public server connection rather than a staff connection. However, you can see this nice little rainbow of colors within the city here. So these lines represent all of the different easements that have now been location mapped, and a significant number of these do include a link to the easement document as well. So this was really important because we have multiple departments that utilize these easements in various ways. For one instance, I'm sure you're all used to seeing on your consent agenda, the First Amendment, Second Amendments to easements. Every single time one of those requests comes forward, we have had to go find that, research, identify the specifics of those documents. So previously to do that, staff typically across various departments had to access either final plat documents, site plans, or other documents that we would have available on a property. As you can imagine, that takes quite a bit of time and is hard to search because you almost have to know it exists to find it. So in this case, we identified the opportunity to start mapping those. One other challenge with trying to locate the easement documents, if you have the document, but not necessarily the location, many of these are written in what's called meets and bounds, which is those really long legal descriptions. You'll see that's like the northwest quarter, the southeast quarter of section, township, range, block of text. You really need kind of a specialized knowledge to be able to interpret where those physically exist. Which a lot of our staff don't have because it's not their job to read legal descriptions and do those kind of reviews. So as you can see, there are many, many, many colored lines on here. So we've been able to map those. I was able to complete everything west of Interstate 3580. But due to the age of development and documents on the east side, that had been something that staff was not able to get done. But this summer, we did have a summer intern, Yao, work with us, and his primary project was actually focused not on the easement creation, but on analysis of the Walnut Creek Watershed Model Stream Buffer Ordinance. But in order to effectively do that analysis, we needed to complete any of the easements related to surface water, overland flowage, detention, those kinds of easement restrictions. So Yao helped us by really digging in on a ton of records and getting everything east of the interstate that we have in the city records is now located and mapped. And then we were lucky to have Catherine join us, our newer planner who started in July. And she was able to take some of the more complex legal descriptions that were just a little beyond the intern's capability to figure out where they were. So she helped with mapping about 30 or 40 of our more complicated locations here, as well as doing some quality control checks. I wish Ray was here tonight, been my cheerleader, telling us how wonderful the access is. But as you zoom in, if you wanted to go find specifics of an easement, you just have to click on it. And of course, this one's not going to immediately pop up for me. And I'm trying to show you. Might be zoomed out too far. There we go. So it shows me that there's a detention easement there. And then this link, if I clicked on it and was on a server connection, would actually find the specific document that says exactly what can and can't be done there, who owns or has the rights to the easement. So it has really streamlined staff's ability to answer questions as well as processing those first amendments and other related development reviews. So it's been a great tool. I think a lot of our staff has been able to utilize it. And that is our big process improvement. It was primarily just staff time that we were able to work in across our other duties. Our summer intern did cost approximately $8,000, but only a portion of his time was spent on this. So I don't have an exact breakdown of the hours, but I think it has saved at least that much in staff time of trying to research and answer these questions on the fly. As well as now, if someone calls with a question, we have a very quick resource that we can typically answer that when they ask instead of having to take their information and get back to them. So that is my presentation. Any questions?
Great job.
All right.
Love process improvement. Great job.
Thank
Amanda,
you.
I just wanted to note, I appreciate the call out on the restricted access to the secure documents.
Yes. Thank you. Guys have a good night.
Next up, we have one from Admin Services. Corey.
All right. I am, for those who don't remember me, I am Corey Eastman, your finance manager. And I brought with me the two that really were the forces behind this process improvement. That's our two utility billing specialists, Stephanie Vandenberg and Maritza Alarcon. So we're going to get into it. It's a mobile service work order. There are many pieces in for us to bill and keep water flowing to our residents and keep that communication going. I'm sure most of you remember when you're a child, you played with two cans and a string and the communication barriers that went along with it. String breaks, can't hear. So when we recently put together a task force with members from the Public Works, water distribution, and our utility billing, first thing we mentioned was communication is key. Without that, we're not going to be able to do our job effectively. So a year ago, Stephanie went to our civic symposium by our software, and I said, get everything you can on this mobile app. And she came back, and here's the bullet points. And the ones that stuck out to us is the interface with utility management, update, service billing, and information. The ability to communicate with our crews out in the field without paper. And then the streamlining the new customer process for our residents coming into the city. Here's a screenshot of what the mobile app will look like. It saves on paper. Currently, our process, we generate a PDF, we email it, it's printed, it's filled out, it's scanned again, sent back to us, we print it out, and then we hand enter all the data. As you can tell, that's a lot of time and a lot of resources that could possibly be considered as wasted. Another key element is when our staff is out and they're putting in serial numbers, MTU numbers. Once that information is put in, it is stored to the location address, no longer just to the customer. So if a MTU has had 3 work orders in a row, we can identify it quicker and we can go out there and possibly that's time to replace it. Once again, a savings to the city. The actual mobile app, we are actually able to set required fields that need to be filled out. There are some times we'd send a work order out and we'd get data back that was not asked for, incomplete, incorrect, handwritten, and sometimes handwriting is the most difficult thing to decipher. Creating errors when we go to calculate final bills, when we are communicating back to the customer. Now we actually will have detailed information. As soon as it's completed, we will be able to take it and insert it into our billing software. Along with the interface, we will now be able to track all open work orders. So we can help the crews in the field prioritize whether we need it this week, next week, or is it something that they can fit into their schedule when time permits. The perfect example of how this is going to help us, if we ask for a final read because you sold your house, the next customer's coming in, we can put out the work order that we need the final read and we can put the date on it. Once we get the final read in and it's updated into the location and to the customer, it automatically produces a final bill and it starts the process for the new customer with that same number, no longer holding on to it until the new customer comes in. So through the task force, we believe that this is one small piece to the overall success of what we're trying to obtain. And as long as we keep communication to the forefront, we believe that we're going to continue to strive and do better for our residents here in Clive. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions?
Your Honor, if I could add to what Corey and his team have done, they've done really, really great work. The way that that process was moving also was moving parallel with our work to change up quite a bit of the billing infrastructure that we started back in the beginning of the fiscal year. And before we could get into that and also be confident moving into process improvement for how we handle these types of cases, we had to make sure we had an excellent roster of all of the utility customers here in the city. And as anybody who's dealt with a large database knows, that can be really tricky. And then when you have to combine it with other databases, it gets even further complex. My colleague, Corey Phillips, who is a big part of our business analyst, data analyst, and data visualization, runs our GIS programs as well. He had worked very closely with these teams as well to get us in a position where we could implement these process improvements. And I'd call out also Corey's work helping out just generally with taking us to the next step with how we visualize geographic data. So the stuff that Amanda was talking about, Corey kind of helps create the bedrock underneath which many of those types of new data visualizations stand up. So there's not just a good collaboration you see between these departments here, but really across to many, many departments in the entire city.
Very good. Thanks, Pete.
Quick question on the mobile app. Is that something that's got some sort of login requirement or security restrictions on the mobile app? Is it only on, city mobile apps? How does that work?
It is run very similar to our billing software. You will need a unique username, password, and then you will actually need our subdomain to be where to be pointed to. Once it's loaded onto the device, you can add the do authentication. Those are all driven by the user. I did a quick presentation this afternoon, and because it's already live, and we actually go live next week after our training. but there is layers of security provided by Civic Systems, who is our billing software provider.
Okay, great. And is this when the app launches, is it going to be on city staff personal devices or city devices, or a mix of both?
It is specifically for the devices out in the field. So we just purchased 2 new tablets for crews in the field to work on. I was actually working with the trainer, so I was given permission to put it on my phone. It will go back off there, but it is nice to see what we're looking at as we go into it to train. We know what we're looking for, so we can try to avoid any roadblocks and hurdles.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
But sure, Con, if you wanted the password login and the domain name, I can TikTok it out to you.
Great. Yeah. I appreciate that.
It's pretty good.
Again, great work. Thanks for it.
All right, thank you.
And we have a new employee. Jeff, you want to tell us about Bryce?
Mayor, Council, good evening. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you our newest operations specialist, Bryce Boston. Bryce comes to us with some HVAC experience in addition to spending several years landscaping snow removal services. So with that, I introduce you Bryce Boston.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bryce Boston. As he said, partnered over a landscaping company in West Des Moines for over 10 years. Got a little one at home, so just need a little bit more stability, some better benefits, and looking kind of more ahead to the future and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to join the team, and this is a great opportunity for me, so I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Next, we're ready to move into the action items, but we can pause for a moment. Our guests are welcome to stay for the balance of the meeting. This would be an opportunity to leave. Thank you all for being here.
Except Dave. Dave, we're gonna get yours about 8:30.
I'm here.
We just like having you here. I mean, it's not very often.
All right, we'll move into our Clive Hotel discussion. And Doug.
As outlined in the packet material, what we're recommending to you tonight is to table the third consideration until the December 14th city council meeting. That'll allow us some time to complete some discussions and finalize the zoning change and development agreement that would come along with the third consideration of the proposed ordinance.
I'd entertain such motion.
I'll move to table it to the December 14th meeting.
Motion is second. Further discussion.
Doug, how are we doing on those discussions? Are we?
They're
maybe we can
ongoing.
start. They're ongoing. Huh. Okay.
That satisfy your,
Yeah, that's,
then would the council please vote?
ongoing.
And will the clerk please post that vote to table to our December meeting?
My vote's ongoing.
And with that, it passes with 4 affirmative votes. Amanda.
Good evening again. Matthew, the dot cam. See if this shows the right way. So rather than printing off the actual final plat document for Shadow Creek West, as you see in your packet, it is split across 4 sheets and they kind of change orientation. Do you want this moved? I had north pointing up, but there we go. Okay, that's north, pointing that way. We have this nice exhibit from Vista that identifies several different things on here I'll get to, but the final plat before you tonight is 88 single-family lots on just shy of 53 acres. That includes also about 4.7 acres of parkland dedication to the city that's going to be incorporated into the Greenbelt Park and Trail System. And then the development has been developed in accordance with the preliminary plat and construction drawings. And as is typical, we do have an agreement to complete for some of the public improvements that aren't quite done yet. placement of the mailboxes, street lights, some of that stuff that's typical to linger. So we would have typically had the final plat on the consent agenda tonight. However, Vista Development, Vista Real Estate would like to be the 2024 Home Show Expo host. And they submitted this Shadow Creek West development and were selected by the Home Builders Association. So tonight, in addition to final plat approval, staff is asking for a motion from council giving direction on staff support for that 2024 Home Show Expo. Clive was the host city in 2018. At that time, I think it was in July. It has since been moved back now to take place in September, still over 3 weekends. And this year, the Home Show or the Home Builders Association is anticipating approximately 10,000 attendees over the 3 weekends in September. And there are a few requests for support from staff. We're still fairly preliminary in the conversations at this point. So there may be additional requests or information coming forward as we get through all the planning process that would be involved, such as the Clive night and stuff that we had in 2018. We don't have enough details at this point for those level of discussions. But we do know that they are requesting support from the Public Works Department for traffic control and street cleaning in advance of the show. Support from Parks Department in providing picnic tables for the show. And then support from the Police Department for an enhanced presence leading up to and during the show, and then off-hour drive-bys through the show area while that is going on. There isn't any specific EMS needs anticipated, but as typical with a larger event in the community, our EMS services will have a heightened awareness that there's an event going on in case there is anything that happens. They'll be able to respond very quickly. And then assuming council does support hosting the Home Show Expo, staff and the developer will return next year in 2024 with additional information, as well as some of the formal actions that are required, such as temporary street closures, no parking orders, things of that nature. So what we see here, the Home Show portion of the development are these lots shown in orange. Those have been reserved for the Home Show. The remainder would not be part of the show, as was similar in our 2018 show, only a portion was there. And then you can see there are already several lot pre-sales indicated by the green dots on here. So we're not even final platted yet, and we already have a much interest in the development. So with that, we do have Dave Harmeyer with Vista here tonight, if you have any questions.
Amanda, real quick, I did have a question for you. Any estimates or rough numbers on what the cost of those asks will be versus any potential additional economic benefit from hosting the show?
I don't know, Doug, if we have any of that information from 2018, but while he ponders that, those are support that we already have the supplies for, such as the street barricades, street cleaning. So it would primarily just be dedicating staff resources at the right time to the right area.
Any concerns there with, dedicating that staff resource at that time?
No, it was not a unmanageable burden in previous years. And Doug's shaking his head. He doesn't have anything to add as far as being able to kind of calculate that economic development impact.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think me personally, I'd like to see those numbers before I support or don't support.
Sure. We can work on getting some of that information and bring it back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, appreciate it.
I know that's hard to quantify. I will say this, as having attended the 2018 show, I thought it really brought one, great exposure to the city and great exposure to the developments out there. It's fantastic for Clyde to host the home show right there. And it really showcases what we're doing here and really the Clive way. So to me, I think that's a well invested, this is a small expense for us, and the return is really unparalleled. I also enjoyed having the council meeting out there, which I thought was unique and a good opportunity for many individuals that live out there to kind of come out into our council meeting. So strong supporter and appreciate the great partnership, Dave, with this.
Ted.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And additionally, the builders typically are going to invest a little bit more in these types of homes. And so they're going to have higher values, which brings some more return to the city. And like Eric said, it showcases the city itself. These home shows are bring a lot of value to those communities. So I fully support it. I appreciate what Dave's doing as well. One question for you. Who owns the pond?
So the pond lot is currently in city ownership. However, there is a stormwater agreement to complete where the city has not yet accepted the full maintenance and management of that facility until, I believe in the agreement, it's 75% of the lots in that drainage area are developed. So it'll be maybe a couple years. We'll see how quickly the lots build out here.
And are there any requirements on how that pond is maintained before it's handed over to the city?
Yes, so the pond would have to be restored to the design condition with a recent or new as-built taken to verify that the depths, forebays, all that sort of stuff is cleaned to how it was designed and is operating the way it should be operating prior to city acceptance of the maintenance responsibility.
All good questions, Ted. And to Dave, on this night, I'm not saying how to do your event and stuff, but I do like the pond. It's been a big discussion, right? Especially with that, I'll call it a buffer area right there outside of the property lines. I foresee some lively discussions with those homeowners in the future, right? On fishing and people back there and all that. But is that something, I think it's something to show off, right? During this home show. Can we get people back there? Can you have an event back there, a tent back there? I mean, something to show off that pond as a neighborhood feature or as a city feature. I mean, if the city is going to take it over, it needs to be widely known that that pond can be used by anybody, even if the people that are the residents think that that's their backyard.
Yeah, they
Sorry to make, yeah.
So Shrikant can hear you.
Dave Harmeyer, Vista Real Estate, 2400 86th Street in Urbandale. They are aware of that in our purchase agreements that it is owned by the city, and their access to it is limited by that. So they should be aware of it. As far as promoting it at the event, the 3 lots that back up to it are sold. And so it would be us trying to work with those builders to do something like that. But if you wanted to do something from a city's perspective to promote that whole green belt, I think the HPA would be all in favor of that, but that's out of our control. We don't run the event. We just host it on our site. But
And there's a bike trail going back there.
yeah, I'm happy to champion that. I think that's great. It helps us. So anything like that would be great.
Okay.
But along those lines, I think it's going to be really important, and some of this falls on the listing agent and the builder themselves, but knowing exactly where those lot lines are and exactly where the homeowner is responsible for, right, with respect to each of those lots and where it's adjacent to those ponds. We've just experienced some issues with that recently. So
well, Ted, I know you know that, but we've gotten those calls too. Yep. So yeah, it's as much as you try to tell people, the real estate agents sometimes don't. They don't. I've gotten calls from homeowners saying, well, they told me that this was a park, and well, yeah, you know.
Right. Yeah, I get it. It's not necessarily on you, but that's going to be very important that we're stuff like this. You got some really nice lots right there.
Yep.
They're going to have some high expectations. So we just need to make sure that, things are communicated up front properly. So
I agree with you.
We're new at taking over these ponds, right? I mean, fairly new, bringing in these stormwater detention ponds and taking them over for the developer, and it's been a little controversial. It's a beautiful plot, and you do great work, your company, and so I don't doubt what it's going to be, but those have been heated here lately.
Understand. I actually think you guys are doing it the right way. I've seen it both ways, and I've seen where the HOAs are, once we're done, we know what we're doing. We think we do, and we work hard at it, and we self-perform a lot of our work. But the HOAs are ill-equipped to do this, and there's also no annual requirement that they file any kind of reports or inspections of doing it in some communities, and it's an absolute mess for people. So I'm actually supportive of what you guys are doing. I think it's better for the community. So,
Thanks, Dave.
yep.
Anything else? Otherwise, what we're being asked to do is pass a resolution.
Thank you.
Move the resolution approving the Shadow Creek West final plat.
Second.
Motion and second on the resolution. Further discussion? Seeing none, would the council please vote? And then would the clerk please post that vote? And the resolution passes by a vote of 4-0.
And make a motion to support the 2024 Home Show Expo.
Second.
Motion and a second on the support for the expo.
So I do. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you make your own argument. I was going to make your argument for you.
No, well, so I was just gonna say, I just wanted to put on the record that I won't be voting in support, but it's just mostly because I don't have enough information. I think the numbers that I've heard are not small numbers. They're potentially in the tens of thousands of dollars to the cost of the city. So I just want to get a better handle on those numbers or better understanding before I would support this.
Well, and I think, look, I'm in support of it, but it's fair enough to say, can we get some estimates? There's got to be some estimates from past shows and that type of thing. This is very vague. Motion to support it. We're not saying how much. I think you're right, Shrikant. If it comes back, these giant numbers, we can certainly support it, but at the number we say we're going to support it at a later date. So I'd request those numbers too, to come back to us, some kind of figures, ballpark figures to show us what that means.
But this is very preliminary. Right?
Tonight, I'm going to vote yes, but with the expectations of
And
those
it's not just the
numbers.
cost, it's the return, right? Because
That's correct.
Right.
the
Zero line on the
enhanced
whole event.
assessments and things of that nature.
Yeah, we'll follow up with those
Yeah.
numbers.
But we saw that in 2018.
And we can report too in terms of what we saw in 2018.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
all fair.
and then compare it to what we project for this show.
Right.
We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, would the council please vote? And then would the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 3-1 with the understanding that there will be much more information coming back to the council.
Yep.
Thank you.
Richard, tell us about Greenbelt Landing.
I thought we were going to talk about ponds a little bit more. I will.
There's a pond in Greenbelt Landing. So
True.
I want to talk to Ted about ponds.
I will follow up one
$1 million
kind of note on that. Is one of the things that we've changed in the Shadow Creek 5-6, and then we'll continue with the Shadow Creek West development is we are getting those property corner posts put out there with a sticker that says what it is and what they can do up to that land. We'll get those out there before the houses are developed. So we'll probably still get that done this fall or early next spring. And that's a difference from when the Shadow Creek 1, 2, 3, and 4 were done, where the houses were out there before we got those posts in. So trying to create that expectation up front. We did that with 5 and 6, and we're already seeing better results of the developers, the builders, and the
fences don't go in the wrong place.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And then that helps become a tool for Doug's team. And as they're constructing the house, that they don't get that in the way there. So, yeah.
Those posts are basically put in on top of the pins or something.
So
right?
what we do,
On the
so
inside.
the pin is the corner. We'll just usually back it off 6 inches towards the city side, just so people know. So it gives them a little leeway if they want to put a fence in, things like that. They're not bumping right into that galvanized post.
But a permanent code.
Yep. Yeah, it's a permanent.
Post?
It's a permanent galvanized fence post. It's 4 feet tall, and then we have a sticker about this big that says "City of Clive, Greenbelt Property. Here's what you can do on the property." So it outlines expectations. It kind of sets things right up front. So that's something we've started doing differently with the stuff north of Little Walnut Creek.
Good deal.
Greenbelt Landing. So tonight represents the next step forward in this project. In October, we issued a request for proposals for teams interested in being a construction manager as agent for this project. We received 3 proposals, one from DCI Group, a second one from McGow, and a third one from Ryan Companies. And following those proposals, we did interviews. Matt and I did interviews with the proposal teams, and coming out of that, we are recommending moving forward with DCI Group as the team that we want to have as the construction manager, as agent for the Greenbelt Landing project. Included in the packet was their overall proposal, but our recommendation tonight is to move forward with a small pre-construction services proposal that will allow us to get them on board to start working with us for some of that pre-construction type work. It'll also allow us to work with them to get in there and start to refine the budget for this so that we can bring back the larger contract, which the overall dollar amount is based on that proposed budget. So we thought this would be a great way to get going forward on this with a small contract amount, and then we'll bring back the larger contract at a later date, probably either in your December or January meeting.
I was that, as the council knows, we worked with DCI on the public safety facility. One thing that sets them apart for these three proposals is they also set their fee as a lump sum once the project budget is set, and they do not charge their fee against change orders. The other two do. And so when you looked at the basically the math of what we had on the project budget, they were somebody we were used to, or we have experience with them, and they were also the lowest cost out of the three based on the current project budget. So we would recommend to work with DCI, and it's the similar team in terms of Michael Steen and the same site supervisor that we had on public safety. There's a few new members to the team, senior project manager Kelsey, who I haven't worked with before, but the balance of the team is all people we've worked with and have a relationship with.
I'll move a resolution approving the contract with DCI Group.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will clerk please post that vote?
Had to get one incline.
Do it.
So no, it's here.
And that passes by a vote of 4-0. Next, we're going to discuss TC4.
Good evening again. Tonight we have before us a request to consider some changes to the permitted uses in the TC4 district. That is our town center entertainment district area. And the specific property we're looking at tonight is the University Park Shopping Center. Matthew, would you mind the dot cam? So we have a request before us from AutoZone. They would like to open one of their mega hub store concepts in the former Toys R Us building. So that space is approximately 45,000 square feet. You can see from the floor plan here, there is an about 7,500 square foot retail area proposed right in this area. And then the remainder, about 37,500 square feet, would be for stock and kind of a local distribution concept. So our AutoZone representative had told us that they would anticipate local deliveries from 0 to 4 trips a day, and that those use typical consumer vehicles, not large semis. And then also that they would get 1 daily semi-truck delivery from the actual distribution center. They're looking at a 15-year initial lease and about a $1 million investment. However, they're not proposing any significant changes to the building. So staff's understanding that investment is largely in the racking and things that would go into the building to support the storage and retail use, not necessarily changes to the structure. So our TC4 district does allow automobile supply as an auxiliary use. It does require that 25% of the building area be dedicated to retail sales. However, TC4 does not allow for warehousing or distribution uses. As the entertainment district area, the long-term vision there, those were not uses that were put in as permitted or auxiliary. So the city did amend TC4 in 2018 to add a section that supported the development of the discount tire. That was previously an AMCO, I believe, back in the day. So that was a full redevelopment of that site. And comparatively, discount tire is approximately 7,400 square feet total. And their assessed building valuation, so just the building, is about 1.9 million currently. So we did, staff and the consultants for both the 86th Street Neighborhood Plan and the University Corridor Study did evaluate the University Park Shopping Center, and they came to similar findings. So those recommendations largely were on focusing on a comprehensive redevelopment approach to the shopping center with a reduction in retail space and incorporation of medium or higher density housing, so townhome, maybe some multifamily. So the question before the council tonight is whether you would like staff to go back and draft an ordinance amendment that would allow for uses such as the kind of distribution center, local distribution warehousing component. And if you would like to allow for a reduction in the percentage of the floor area that would need to be dedicated to retail sales for a use like that. And we do have, I believe, David Bentley with AutoZone on Zoom tonight. I don't know if he has any comments he'd like to make.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here and I would. Thank you. I apologize. I was trying to turn my video on, but it won't let me. So
One moment. I'll be setting you up as a co-host. One moment.
okay, thank you.
You should be able to at this point.
There I am. Hi, good evening. As Mayor and Council, my name is David Bentley, work at AutoZone. I'm one of the project managers in store development. I appreciate your time in discussing this with us tonight. Also from AutoZone is Buck Dwyer is on the call or meeting. Buck works in our real estate department here as well. So the presentation that Amanda just went through explained it pretty well, what we do and what we're looking for. One thing I would like to add as far as the like the distribution of the warehouse portion, and there are times when people get hung up with that. Just the nature of our business is, we're a retailer and everything in this store is for sale. You can walk in the front door and you can purchase it and leave with it. We just also use these larger store concepts to help supply our smaller stores in just in and around this trade area. So the auto parts business, as far as retail goes, it's not like a clothing store or a shoe store. You go in and you want to pick the color, of a sweater or your shoes, the material. But the auto parts business is the customer has a specific need. If your alternator goes out, you just need the alternator that works on your vehicle that year. And it doesn't matter if it's blue, green, red, or purple. It's the part that matters. So this gives us the ability to have more parts that are available. Someone can walk into the store and let's purchase that part and leave with it. And that makes us a little unique. I know the zoning district that we're in is kind of complicates, what we do or what we intend to do here. And that's why we're asking for a consideration of the ordinance change. And I'll be happy to answer questions or if Buck has anything to add.
Yeah, thank you, David. I would like to add one thing. Hi, my name is Buck Dwyer. I'm a real estate development manager for AutoZone for the corporate headquarters in Memphis. And one thing I want to add that I think is important to note is these mega hubs, we call them mega hubs. We definitely don't call them warehouse or distributions, even though certainly they do deliver parts to the nearest stores. It makes up about 11 stores in the Des Moines area. This retail area will bring parts to. But like David said, it is a retail store where people coming in and out the front door. And we're expecting this to be a very high volume, very busy store. And with that, the average employment out of these boxes is 60 employees, 60 new employees, 60 new jobs will be out of this retail area, or out of this store. I think that's an important thing to note. And also, I did want a small correction. I know your notes did say $1 million of improvements. It's actually $2 million, and there's a considerable improvements need to be made to this. You know, this was a long time Toys R Us. I think they closed in 2018. And since then, the building does need some improvements. And so we're investing over $2 million into that. And I know our landlord, he's on the call today, AJ, he's already made the investment on a new roof. So we're investing quite a bit into this for a long-term investment for us.
Any questions? Okay.
Well, I don't have a question. I have a comment. So I to the AutoZone folks, I appreciate how this is a good fit for you all, and certainly appreciate your interest. I will say from my perspective, this is not a good fit for our long-term vision. This project excites me about as much as the discount tire project excited me, which I lost that battle, but you know, redevelopment in our community is critical for our future and for our community. And this is a really important area. And this particular project does not fit that vision of what we're trying to accomplish long term. Not gonna be able to get it in the short term, but long term, I think we need to be looking at, you know, 3 steps ahead, not just what's here in the next, you know, couple of years. So that's my comment.
Eric.
You know, I served on the first district redevelopment and the 86th Street plan for a year and a half. And as we identified this University Park and this corridor right here, and Matt, I know we've had some conversations to begin talking about what the long-term economic impact is, what's the long-term vision for Clive for this particular area, what's the best usage of this. I'm not sure a retail hub fits into that plan, especially with a 15-year lease. So I'm a little hesitant on this as well. And I understand the investments that you're looking to make in this property for retail development. But from my perspective and what the plan that we developed over several years, you know, this is a different course than what we looked at.
Michael?
Yeah, respectfully, I'd say that, you know, the difference, Ted, and I understood your arguments back at Discount Tires and, you know, we went a different direction, but either way I could have gone at that time. I think the difference is look at what we did end up with, right? I mean, we did end up with a pretty good product.
It's not the highest and best use.
That's right.
In my opinion.
That's right.
And that's the same with this particular project.
Right.
It's not the highest and best use of what we could get out of it. So
Yeah, and Discount Tires put a lot more infrastructure in, made a lot of more changes to that corner. They put higher end building in. And what I'm hearing out of this is they're putting a new roof on their existing building. Well, I hope so, right? Or you're going to have damage in the future. I mean, that's kind of a necessary that you have a roof on your house, not an improvement for the city's sake. And I'm hearing there aren't any improvements to the building itself. Again, difference between the other Discount Tires and what kind of got me to go that way. This one has none of that. And quite frankly, I'm not hesitant. I'm a no. I have no interest in this at all in this place, in this spot of the city.
Rika?
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with anything that's been said so far. And, you know, I think I'm actually probably closer to what Michael just said, as far as being a no, but I understand acutely you know, I understand what AutoZone's trying to do here, right? There's an opportunity here for them with, you know, the average age of people keeping their vehicles is up to 12 and a half years. But again, I just don't think it fits our long-term vision.
That's all we need, Your Honor.
All
Thank you.
right.
Sure. May I ask a question?
Certainly.
Because this is David Bentley again. No, I appreciate your candor and I appreciate you being up front with us. That's what we were asking. Is there anything like you say your long-term vision or improvements? Is there anything we could do to help? Like, are there changes to the exterior building facade? Is there other improvements that that would help you feel different?
I can speak for me and I would say no. It's the whole vision. I certainly understand, appreciate what you folks are doing. It just doesn't fit in with what my particular long-term vision is for this particular, how we're going to redevelop that whole area with University Park. So I would respectfully say no, but I certainly appreciate your question right there. I understand that.
Thank you.
I agree.
So I would add, I don't know how practical it would be on your end, but if you're talking about a pretty significant investment in the rest of that area, or adding to the building to make it more than what it is today, I'm open to listen to that. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to say yes, but
Sure.
I'd be interested in hearing that.
Michael?
I'm at the same, it would be a heck of a lift to get me to change what that area looks like or what it's going to be. I would encourage staff to share that vision of what that corner could look like and what we've seen drawings of, renders of, right? They're rough. And maybe if you can fit within those parameters of, the building styles, the housing, the retail, some of those other things, the interaction with the green belt. I agree, there's probably not a better location in the western side that you're going to find as a mega hub than University and 86th Street. But your lift is going to be huge when you see staff's rendering of that area. And I think then if you haven't seen that, you're going to have an aha moment of why this board is really not in favor of what you're proposing.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And maybe you could just give a 2-minute summary of what we're looking for.
Yeah, so largely, it is a redevelopment of the entire center comprehensively. Looking at, sorry, I'm trying to see if I can pull it up here real quick since we're on the meeting. But looking at, as I said, a very significant reduction in oops.
Trying to bring it up.
Yes, here we go. A significant reduction in the retail space. We did find that we are frankly over retail in that area for getting some of the higher quality retail that we would expect. Yeah, if you can, Matthew, that would be great. Just got to find which section we're looking at here.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, you're good. It's the beauty of the internet. We can have it all.
Technology is working in our favor tonight.
She is on it.
So here is our rendering of that area. Hardee's is this building here that we can see outside of the green area. And then we have Mr. Car Wash and Cool Basil. So the Toys R Us is approximately right here with this high density residential is indicated. And you can see there are some very significant investments being looked at as far as trail extension and that relationship with Walnut Creek. Really trying to embrace that adjacency with the creek and that economic potential the city would have there with redevelopment. But largely there was identified some opportunity for mixed use. This is again just a concept, but this is the large thought of what this area could ultimately be. And then the yellow boxes off to the left are like a townhome or a smaller multifamily use being shown adjacent to the existing residential.
Thank you, Amanda. I think we've got a couple of folks online that had questions or comments.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to unmute you here. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, guys. My name is Jared Sullivan. We're a kind of rep broker for AutoZone throughout several state regions in the Midwest, but we do several deals throughout the Des Moines Metro. We're pretty active in this neck of the woods and familiar with, I guess, Clive and the overall process, but I guess new to this world. So I guess just curious in the overall grand scheme of Clive's plan for redevelopment, I guess, have you guys taken into consideration for the long-term plan? Obviously the leasehold improvements or the lease interest in place of the existing tenants, or I mean, obviously there's a lot of other owners that are involved in University Park that the AutoZone conversation helps benefit and bring not only foot traffic, but sales revenue and taxes to the city. So understanding it might not be the first, thought, but we're seeing in retail that big box users are maybe not what cities look for on their first, I guess, go around, but it's a good way to help drive traffic and be a good long-term improvement for the community. So
Yeah, I can say.
Amanda, one quick question on that.
Mhm.
With only a smaller footprint of the building actually being the retail portion, the city would only be deriving sales tax from only that limited portion versus the whole 45,000 square feet, because that's distributed to other stores, correct?
That would be my understanding of how the sales tax would work.
I'll speak to that briefly. This store should do about $5 million after the second year of it being open in sales out the front door. The average AutoZone is closer to about 1.8 million. And so, and then actually that from Iowa standards, Iowa is actually a lower volume area. So this is going to be significantly more sales than all of our other Iowa stores. And also, I don't want to ramble, but senior management would be upset if I didn't get this in, that we are providing a service to our customers in these larger box stores, where the nearest one is St. Louis or Kansas City to this area, in Minneapolis area. And it's very important with getting our parts to our customers. This box will have about 95% of all the parts you can get from AutoZone or AutoZone.com. And from our distribution center, this will have great parts coverage for same day service to all people that need that part to get their car back on the road to get to the work. They can get it that same day. That shop or themselves going to that front door can get it that day rather than going online and waiting. They've getting a great service in their community, in the community of Des Moines, and Clive in particular will have that service for those people. But sorry, to answer the question, this is going to be a higher volume store, and the sales will go to Clive.
Pete, do we have someone else?
Yes, Mr. Dwywon, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes. My name is AJ Dewan. I'm one of the owners of the property. We purchased it in December of 2018 from Toys R Us. We've spent 5 years now marketing this space for lease and trying to find a reasonable tenant that will improve the area. We understand clearly why you are not happy with the project. Of course, it's a little challenging because there's multiple owners involved. We own only the Toys R Us section. We don't own the rest of it. And we don't know how long some of those other leases are with the other tenants. And to find a national tenant that is willing to improve the building and cooperating with them to get this done has been difficult. And what we're afraid of is we waited 5 years for a good tenant to come along, and we don't know how much longer we can wait and cooperate with other owners and we don't know what kind of leases they're bound to. So I just don't understand how we can work well when there's other owners that have obligations on their end. And we just don't want to be in a situation where we're leaving a property that can be activated, leaving it vacant. So we would ask for your consideration or comments on that.
Thank you. There seems to be, we've got one council member absent. We've got one council member that seemed to be open to hearing what improvements you might be able to make.
And I think we're open, AJ, to if you looked at our comp plan there or our rendering, staff would certainly work with you of scraping that property and bringing it up to that new look. You can be the first property owner to reinvest in that area, and then it takes off to those townhomes. So that's an option for you to work with staff, is to bring that building down and start building up that new concept, which is going to be a pretty amazing concept that we've been working with West Des Moines on as well, to start building that entire university corridor. So a great investment. I'm just afraid your short-term gain can't be our long-term loss here. And I'm not willing to do that. But if you want to talk to Doug and staff about bringing Toys R Us down and start building a concept like you saw with multi-use and some housing and retail, gosh, I'm with Shrikant. I would be interested in listening. But mega auto zone, I have no interest in, nor a car wash.
Michael, your concept sounds good, and I would definitely be interested to do that, perhaps in person. It's just right now with interest rates and construction costs the way they are, I'm just not sure how feasible it will be, not just on our end, but getting the cooperation from the other owners as well, because it's not something that we can do alone. I think we need to have cooperation from multiple owners, and we don't know their financial situation or means.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, AJ, and it's a difficult puzzle to put together, right? There's no doubt there's various moving parts, and there's no one lever that you can pull to make it all come together. I get that. The problem again with this is that you're locking us into a 15-year and in all likelihood longer commitment that that then does put us on a certain path that I don't think most of us are willing to go down.
And I think it's, if I can speak a little bit, I think it's fair to say the council is definitely interested, as you see with the amount of effort and resource that the city has put into the planning for this area, that there is a short-term interest. We understand that there is a complicated environment here with the different owners, and we've had a harder engagement with the dominant property owner of the center. And that's something that staff continues to work on. But I think there's a willingness on behalf of the city to try to work on how do we facilitate those conversations jointly, and for the city to come to the table as a partner at some point in the future. I think that is definitely the case of the city. That's why it was part of the 86th Street neighborhood plan and the university corridor plan, where those two plans overlap. And so I definitely think that there is, you have the city as a willing partner. We just have to find the right fit for both the community and the property owners. And we know that the coordination with the property owners is difficult, but you have a city council and a city staff that's willing to try to help facilitate the best we can.
So I think at this point, if there aren't any other comment or questions, again, you're welcome to loop back with staff on any significant improvements you might want to make, and we'd certainly be open to looking at those. So good luck.
Yes, sir. We appreciate your time and discussing this with us tonight. So
good luck. I mean,
great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have our legislative priorities. Pete.
1 second, Your Honor. Mayor and Council, this is our annual consideration of our state legislative priorities. As you saw in your packet, memo this year in draft form is mostly unchanged from what we presented last year. There are two items that I want to note that were added. One was,
show those.
We can, yeah, Matthew, is that something I can put up here on my copy right here on the docket? So I'll start by just giving you the two that were been added to the draft document. One is item number 6, support increased state funding to increase capacity at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. The bottleneck that the academy is well known and unfortunately causing significant delays for communities all across the state. This is a time where we don't get officers through the academy or even get them into an academy class, which means time before they're certified, which means time before they're out on the street, filling patrol shifts, doing the work that we need them to do. So we would encourage the state this year to consider increasing capacity at the Law Enforcement Academy. The second item that is new would be item number 7, which has to do with publication requirements for municipalities. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year on getting our notifications published, and the city is in a position to say, yes, we still want to make sure that information is getting out. The question then is, does it need to go in a paper newspaper or not? Last year, this bill moved forward. I believe it moved out of the Senate and then was not considered in the House. And in that time, since the end of the last session, there has been sort of a compromise reached between the Iowa Newspaper Association and interested parties in moving away from these requirements. So at this time, the league is in a position where they are supporting moving forward with the Senate version and taking it for House consideration. At this time, it still looks like that would still come with some requirements to publish. The timing, though, would allow us to sort of mark our time when it's published to when it's put out online, not when it's gone out in the print version. So that's the compromise that, as I understand it right now, has been worked out. But I would expect there to be some additional change to move forward before it moves forward in the House.
This has been more of greater talk. It seems very simple, right? But a lot of organizations, including Metro Waste, are putting their lobbyist on this one this year as well. When you're spending $6,000 to $10,000 as an organization like Metro Waste and just publishing in a newspaper that's not read, but yet they're the lobbyists that are heard, that's absurd. And it's got to change where online is accessible on our website at Clive or any other organization that has to publish is read by tens of thousands more collectively than the old newspaper that used to be around. So we've got to have something change in this. It's crazy that a newspaper association can hold up that we're in the 2023 with technology.
Well, the other thing to note for this is there have been occasions where we have purchased and been guaranteed ads and they did not appear, which Alex is up for whole
earlier this
process.
year.
Whereas if it's online.
I realized now I did misspeak just a moment ago that we do have 2 other very minor additions in this draft document. Under number 3, item H, this is a initiative coming from the University of Iowa and the Flood Center. This is about building out a state hydrologic network. These are the gauges and monitoring devices we need to do better flood monitoring and setting up better protection. And then there has been some initial conversation about ways that watershed coordinators' salaries could be met, or the state could help meet those costs for watersheds. It's at its infancy, but this is a cost currently to the city right now as a participant in the Walnut Creek Watershed Association. The idea now is that more of the watershed associations across the state could have better organization, better performance if there was a little help getting their staff paid.
Thank you, Pete. Questions or comments?
Under 3G, Pete, and you're probably very familiar with this, but DNR is, well, everybody is under kind of a rule to rewrite the rules, right? DNR is doing it right now. Might be one that we engage directly with DNR now before it gets too late on them rewriting the rules. Their entire section is getting rewritten.
Yeah, that's a great call out. We've got a lot to do with the DNR, right? For our own projects right now that we're waiting on permitting. Also, as we're talking about the Iowa Stormwater Management Manual, which paired with the SUDAS manual is the Bible for how you are going to do development and how you're going to build things in the state of Iowa. We need that good consistency. We need those evidence-based, science-based, engineering-based manuals that outline the right way to do these projects in the state of Iowa. And the state plays a big role in making sure those processes move forward efficiently. If I could put an umbrella on where I think we'll see some some constellation of issues that are moving forward in this session. We should expect that there will be some robust discussion about how the property tax legislation is being implemented. And there are a number of cities, including Clive, that have demonstrated that they're ready to adapt and pivot and work within that space. So I think our numbers and the budget you all are working on will speak for itself about that good financial stewardship, because it's a tradition that Clive has maintained for many, many years. And as we're asked about it by legislators, and inevitably we will, we'll be able to tell a real positive story about how we're adapting and how we're providing still great services to Clive taxpayers. But I think there's an opportunity to pivot from that to say, not only did we hear what you said, legislature, but now you have a chance to eliminate some barriers potentially standing in the way of us being even better, being even more efficient, being even more innovative, being even more focused on improvement. A good conversation I had earlier this week with a number of other metro managers really focused on putting together that list of innovative things that cities would like to be able to do if the state could kind of either get out of our way or make a couple changes, maybe come alongside us with some additional funding as well. We discussed a number of ideas and we'll continue to do that. But I think that that's an interesting pivot now from the conversation last year where it was very much about the state saying to cities, you're going to do the same with less, to now the city saying, we do it, we can meet we can adapt to those realities, but there are other things that you can do now potentially to get out of the way to help us be even more successful for our mutual constituents. So we'll see what kind of traction that discussion gets and what are some of the good ideas to rise up to the top. There are some things that are potentially being discussed that could give us some pause. One would be TIF. Iowa has a unique TIF environment compared to a lot of other states, and that's not lost on legislators. However, there are many, many interests beyond cities that understand that when you're trying to pencil out a development deal, if you don't have that TIF toolbox, it makes it real difficult to get to something that's mutually beneficial for a lot of different parties. So I would expect the development community to be very, very full throat when it comes to any discussion about how we might change TIF. Local option sales and services tax lost. That's one that has been approved for specific purposes by the voters here in Clive and every other jurisdiction in Iowa where it's been approved. Last year, there was some discussion about the state sort of intervening and how that process works or taking over some of those dollars. There wasn't consensus between the leadership caucuses in the House and the Senate. And what I've heard thus far, there's still not consensus, but it is still getting spoken about. The other one that probably building on the property tax discussion that we were talking about even today with staff, there'll be some discussion about what the rollback looks like for commercial and industrial property. So multi-use residential or apartments, the ag and residential single family already has a really big rollback, 46.7%.
The largest drop in the residential rollback in 1 year ever.
Yeah, even steeper than the very conservative number we had been working with, which was 47%. Comparatively, the industrial and commercial rollback takes them down to 90% currently.
But really it's 87%.
Yeah, because there's a $150,000 sort of.
The first 150,000 of a commercial property
Yeah.
is actually now taxed as residential under Iowa law. That was a law that was passed 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So they really are under 90%. Now we're estimating it's around 87% in terms of the rollback off of the 100% assessed.
Yeah. So those will be, when you're starting to read all of these legislative forecasts, what's on the horizon, what's coming, I would expect to hear many of these types of things. But I think Clive is well positioned to talk about things that we've spoken about really well for many, many years. That Clive is delivering services that people really, really value, and that the value for the taxes paid from their perspective is extremely high. The state legislature has changed up the game, but Clive adapts. Clive's ready to move forward, and we're looking for state partners who can come with us and continue to help us to adapt and improve.
I would add to Pete's comments, when you look at the proposed legislative priorities and you look at that number 3 and all the items on that list, a lot of realistic things in terms of the water resources area that we talk a lot about around this table, talked about it earlier tonight. A lot of opportunities there, whereas there might be these bigger pieces that are moving and we want to be a part of those conversations. To the discussion we just had about the DNR rules, there's some things that we can find some partners and achieve some success on this list and can really advance the ball forward on some of these items. And as we've been active, and Pete's been very active in the conversation last legislative session related to stormwater rules and what potentially the state may look at, we've been active in that conversation and trying to educate legislators to one of the developers in your community spoke to tonight in terms of a community that's doing it the right way. I think that's a great message for us to share too with our legislators and the legislature at large in terms of there is ways to do these water resources initiatives the right way. And we hopefully have some examples for them to look at too, to maybe see if we can tick a few more things off this list of how we make water resources even better in Iowa.
Yeah, the Iowa Stormwater Education Partnership, I sit on that board currently as representative for the city. And post the session last year, that group really said, we want to make sure we come into this next session prepared to continue a fruitful discussion. Let's not go back to the initial proposal, which would have largely stripped the ability of cities to manage stormwater, regardless of what their residents would prefer. So we were able to fight that off, but now let's move it into a more productive space where we talk about those evidence-based, science-based, engineering-based best practices that cities should be using and looking to best manage their water resources to achieve the amenity outcomes they want, to achieve the flood protection outcomes they want, to protect it from erosion and pollution. I think we're going to be in a better position to continue the discussion, especially with the House caucus compared to where we started last session. The Iowa Stormwater Management Manual is a big part of that, just lifting that up in legislators' minds so they understand how robust this tool is and how important it is for cities right now to get to good for their residents and businesses. Another easy one, though, building on what Matt said, that we could tell a good story about has to do with REAP and the Water Quality Initiative. We've used both of those programs extensively, REAP to expand the Greenbelt all the way out to our western edges. And the Water Quality Initiative, that was the starting funds for our first SQR program in 2022. And we also have Water Quality Initiative conservation grant funding and Greenbelt Landing. And we're preparing an application for the 2024 funding cycle right now.
Anything else for Pete?
So if the council's supportive of this, we would bring, and again, if you have any changes between now and the next meeting, feel free to to send that to us. But our intent is to bring this back to you as an action item at the next meeting.
Sounds good. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to reports.
Happy to report that we'll have our 4 finalists for the communication specialist interviewing with our interview panel on Monday. And at that point, I hope we have got some consensus around what our preferred candidate is. And we'll be ready to talk about that person with Matt when he's back from vacation next week, which keeps us on schedule to making a hire potentially before, or at least an offer before Thanksgiving, and it's getting somebody on board here shortly thereafter.
Very good. Anything else?
No, you're on.
Recon.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Ed.
No report tonight.
Eric.
A couple quick things. Veterans Day is coming up November 11th, and want to recognize all of the Clive employees and other people on this Veterans Day and all the sacrifices and service that they've done for their country and for the city. So I certainly want to do that. A second thing is, I can't tell you how important that these gun locks are. In the last week, there was a young man that took his own life. That was a sophomore at Dowling High School that we went to the funeral last week. Incredibly sad situation. He took his own life on his 16th birthday. And it's a tremendous tragic situation for his family, friends, and relatives. It's very important that we lock any type of firearm up so that a young person can't make a very quick decision that has lifelong consequences and devastating consequences as well. So.
Anything else, Eric? Well, I wanted to congratulate our 3 council members on a spirited campaign and winning re-election. Just for the record, Shrikant had 1,240 votes. Susan Judkins had 1,250, and Ted Weaver had 1,287.
I believe that's just Polk County. That doesn't count Dallas County, which
Oh,
would make it a little bit different. So
okay. Just thanks for the
just saying.
correction.
If you ask him, he probably knows exactly what the difference is, but it was county.
That's right.
So yes, those are the Polk County results. Nevertheless, you 3 were reelected.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
I had the great opportunity, thank you, Shrikant, to sit on the DART board meeting Tuesday. And the gist of it was upcoming changes that were being thought of if the budget doesn't come through. Des Moines, whether they're going to vote in February or January is the intention. Not a lot of high hopes at this point that they will vote that in favor of raising their levy is what was messaged on Tuesday. And then
When is that? Are they voting before the new council comes on, or is it this year?
they're voting in January, so they'll be seated, I think, at that point.
So the special will not have happened yet. That's happening in March, so there'd still be an opening for the at-large position that
It's true.
Mayor Connie Boson
Oh.
is leaving behind.
Oh, yeah.
But I think budgetarily, they need this vote to happen for DART to proceed without cuts. We had a lively discussion, at least I did, on the budget piece and some of the concerns. They're looking at cutting the suburbs routes, starting to cut them and change them now to show you what it's going to look like. And then take Des Moines as a separate piece later. I had a little issue with that. So I said, I think it should all be done at one time. Not cut suburb first before you know what Des Moines is going to vote. And so I think there's intention behind that, right? To put a little pressure on both us, the suburbs and others. And so we'll see. More to come, I think, with presentations to city councils if they want them, as well as city managers. And Sherkan's back for December, I hope. They hope. They hope as well.
You're very welcome, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I missed it. I missed it. And Paula missed me. You know, they all missed me. So
Anything else?
that's it.
I'll have your honor is, of course, this time of the year, we don't have the second meetings in November, December. It'll be a little bit bigger gap till we get to the December meeting, and that'll be a pretty hefty agenda with a number of public hearings and action items. But we'll happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and we'll see you all in the December 14th meeting. And as Pete mentioned, I'll be out of the state Saturday through Wednesday, back in the office on Thursday. If you need anything, just let us know. That's all I have, your honor.
Anything else anyone would like to discuss this evening? Vacation again. Seeing none, we will adjourn at 7.